I aggregated every vibe-coded app I could track over the last 13 months, over 1,000 of them. And 97% are either dead, abandoned, breached, or making absolutely nothing. And here's the part that should genuinely bother you as a software engineer. These apps did not fail for 1,000 different reasons. They all failed for the same exact 3. So by the end of this video, I'm going to be handing you a score from 0 to 100 that will tell you which side of that 97% your idea currently lives on. And before anybody calls this an anti-AI video, I ship with these tools every single day. I run one of the first B2B AI consultancies down here in LA, and I have helped dozens of other software engineers ship multi-5 and 6-figure projects utilizing AI in my startup accelerator, Code to CEO. That's exactly how I know what's working and what's not. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. So in terms of the stakes, what we're dealing with, Replit Agent deleted over 1,200 records in production, hundreds of lovable apps shipped with authentication holes, 45% of AI-generated code fails OWASP top 10, and vibe coding has 1.7 more critical bugs than human written code. But AI is not the problem, okay? How most people use AI is the real problem. In terms of the sample that all of this data is based on, there were over 1,000 vibe-coded apps tracked across X, Product Hunt, Indie Hackers, or /SAS from February 2025 to March 2026, plus public failures from Wiz, Veracode, CodeRabbit, and Meteor. And failed here pretty much means dead, abandoned, breached, or stuck under $500 a month after 6 months. Every claim you're going to see is cross-checked against at least 2 sources. So if a single source got it wrong, it will not be included in the video. And you should be watching this if you're a software engineer and you've opened Claude Code in the last 6 months. If you haven't, this video really is not for you. So first and foremost, as I talked about, a little bit about the 0 to 100 score. If your score is going to be below 60, you need to scrap that idea, okay? If it's between 60 and 80, it's somewhat buildable, and if it's between 80 and 100, it's pretty much defensible that you should go out and build it. Keep in mind, this is going to apply for just a straight up full-fledged SaaS, but also a service-based offer that you're going to do. Let me make one thing clear. The 97% is not because of bad luck, okay? The same 3 mistakes kept showing up in my analysis, regardless of who built it or from where. And the data's been sitting in public for over a year, but nobody actually reads this data. So this is why we have this video. And by the end of this entire presentation, so by slide 60, you're gonna know exactly which bucket your idea sits in. And once you see this pattern, it's gonna be very difficult for you to unsee it. So number 1, crowded ICP. For those of you who don't know, ICP stands for Ideal Customer Profile. Essentially, what ends up happening most of the time is people build for an audience that's already drowning in clones. It's the most common way that applications die or ideas die. It's also the most boring one. Simply put, engineers build for engineers. When that happens, everybody loses, okay? You have you and every other vibe coder that's currently watching this video probably crowding the same exact part of the internet, making the same exact things, leaving businesses such as plumbers, dental clinics, and regional HVAC companies pretty much bare bones with nothing to them. 13 of the top 15 product hunt launches in 2025 were tagged AI. 67% of YC's 2025 batch was AI, and 42% of the SaaS failures that came from that, well, because there was no market need for it. It died because nobody wanted it. People just simply hopped on a trend. But understand that saturation by itself doesn't necessarily kill your app because there is no such thing as saturation. If you build a good solution for a painful enough problem, you will always have customers as long as you understand how to market it. And that is actually where we come into play. And that is actually what happens. Pricing kills your app. What determines what you can charge is very dependent on the market. So when you have 1 million clones doing the same exact thing, some free, some paid, you can't really charge too much. But when you have less than 5 or 10 clones, you are able to charge a consistent price that's quite high. Obviously, law of supply and demand. But understand that the plumber down the street doesn't have 50 clones. He has 0, okay? So most people end up utilizing AI or any type of vibe-coded app to build email writers, note takers, coding tools, GPT, Claude wrappers, whatever the case, image generators, these type of things. But the actual money is in local HVAC routing software, dental clinic intake automations, regional manufacturing inventory, law firm document workflows. How do I know that? These are all things that we at AB Analytics, our consulting firm, have actually done. And these are all multi-5, low six-figure projects. And this side over here, you have every single software engineer on the internet building towards it. Thousands of competitors. On the right side over here, if you have competition, it's most likely going to come from a non-technical source, meaning you have the advantage, okay? So just to give you a little bit of recap as to what we talked about. If you are competing in a saturated market, right, it's called the red ocean or the blue ocean. If you're in the red ocean, chances are your idea is going to be dead on arrival. The AI tool space in 2026 is what SEO was in 2014, extremely packed. Each new clone in your category is going to drag the price down for everybody. If you all remember, I believe it was Interview Coder, Roy Lee's, where you can cheat on an Amazon interview. Take a look at what happened to that particular software. Take a look at the revenue dip it experienced. Second it came out, people started cloning it because obviously it was easy to clone. There's a lot of free versions on GitHub that you can get, and thus it died. Now, local, boring, and willing to pay, that's where pretty much nobody else is because obviously it's boring. If you can describe your ICP in one tweet, understand so can 10,000 other people. So whenever you see all these indie hackers posting stuff on Twitter, one tweet that describes your entire ICP probably means you have a lot more competition than you signed up for, okay? The boring stuff is where the money is hiding. Now, let's move on to failure mode number 2, the trust ceiling. A lot of these apps that we took a look at hold up fine in very low stakes domains. But the moment that real money or auth gets involved, they fall over. The day a real user shows up, that's when you find out. So the trust ceiling, if I were to describe it based on what I've seen, is as follows. Anything that has to do with enterprise data, author identity, legal, healthcare, any type of high value payments, anything of that sort, you can pretty much forget about vibe coding it. Now, you can maybe get away with a couple B2C software and stuff like internal dashboards, weekend tools, habit trackers, to-do lists, not too bad. But anything above the line without properly testing and the user breaking is going to have extremely significant consequences for you. Anything under the line, you'll survive. And understand that 45% of AI-generated code fails OWASP top 10, okay? Nearly half of what came out of these tools ship with exploitable holes. Understand that. And there are 3 numbers that we have to take a look at to really understand how critical all of this is. Vibe-coded stuff has 1.7 times more major issues than human written code, 2.74 times more security vulnerabilities introduced, and 75% more configurations across PRs reviewed. If we take a look at Lovable, 170 out of 1,645 apps built with it had critical auth flaws. You might think that's not a lot, but that's 10% of everything you're shipping out comes with literal security issues. Anybody had full access to it. The worst part about this is it's extremely quiet. Nobody understood it until weeks later, and some people began to notice. Now, take a look at Moltbook. Entire database exposed via the public API key. It was built end through prompts, shipped to production with the API key still sitting in a front-end bundle. It stayed live for days, and the Wiz research team caught it before the founder did. So it was literally an AI social network meant for AI agents, but the team never built around the assumption that a human would poke at it and try to obviously take advantage of it. Another thing that I've seen based on everything that I took a look at was that people would come in, such as, look, my SaaS was built with Claude Code, zero handwritten code, make a YouTube video about it, post it on Twitter, and then date number 3 would come, and then they would say, guys, I'm under attack. Their keys would hit the rate limit overnight, paywall got bypassed with dev tools, database filling with bot junk, and prompt injection garbage. Just because that individual did not write the code, they could not fix it either. And every single one of these issues was caught by the same test. The founder never ran it. Okay, so just to kind of understand this a little bit better, if it's low stakes, if you're going to vibe code something, it's somewhat survivable. But if it's high stakes, it's going to be a graveyard. There is a strict line, okay, when it comes to money, health, auth, where vibe coded stops being good enough. If your app touches any of those, you need to verify the API yourself before you launch. Founders test the happy path. Attackers go straight for the one you didn't think of, okay? And understand a working demo doesn't mean a working product. Strangers will find what you missed. And keep in mind, the bug isn't really in the code that you're gonna write, it's in the test that you never thought to write. And last but not least, failure mode number 3, feature compounding. Vibe coding can get a product to version 1, but keeping it alive past version 1 is the part that nobody really talks about, okay? What we've seen based on the 2,000 that we analyzed, based on the thousands of vibe coded apps we analyzed, was that every feature is pretty much alone. And the interest is bugs that you cannot find. So when you go from feature 1 to feature 50 to feature 200 to feature 2000, by the time you get to 2001, something in the first 2000 is broken and you have no map of where to look exactly. And you might think, well, but wouldn't AI solve this problem? Well, that's what most devs thought. They thought if they were using AI, they would be 24% faster, but they were 19% slower because they had to deal with so much bug fixing. And understand, the biggest point about AI, it's its ability to produce an MVP like that. But a prototype, an MVP works only once. A product has to work 1,000,000 times. So sure, you can demo beautifully on a founder's laptop, but the founder is going to be the only real users. Only the happy path is going to work. It's going to break the first time somebody hits an edge case. But a product has to survive 10,000 strangers without it falling over. It needs to have tests for the paths users aren't supposed to find. It can actually be debugged at 2 a.m. by a human, and it adds features without collapsing under its own weight. Most vibe-coded apps are prototypes that got mistaken for products. So let's go over the 3 killers again. We had a crowded ICP, we had the trust ceiling, and we had feature compounding, okay? If you have nothing to defend, you're gonna have nothing to charge. There's gonna come a point where if you're gonna try to tackle on an idea, tackle on a problem, you need to understand the trust ceiling because real users are gonna break what you didn't test for. And of course, code you didn't write is gonna pile up faster than you can debug it. 97% of failed apps hit at least one of these. Most hit all 3. So what did the 3% actually do differently? And guess what? 3 traits also show up in nearly every single survivor. Okay, number 1, it's most often than not a very boring market with a very painful problem, okay? So most people go painful and hot, that's where the graveyard is, but where we found most of the success in, our own projects included, was in a painful but boring space, okay? Examples such as dental clinic automation, HVAC routing, freight dispatch. We had a Code to CEO founder do the exact same thing, clinical automation. We had John, one of our top founders inside Code to CEO, right? Do HVAC routing along a couple other things. He was charging $1,400 a month per shop to set up. And of course, freight dispatch. I have a video of this on my B2B channel where we built an actual AI receptionist alongside an entire workflow on how to handle freight dispatch for a freight brokerage company. And it was a 6-figure deal over 6 months for a full engagement. All of these extremely boring. They're not fun. However, they get you paid, okay? Trait number 2, the core of it was most often than not hand-coded. AI assisted in the edges, okay? For some, this looked like a very, very thoughtful Claude.md file alongside a bunch of skill agents working together to create something. But nevertheless, the boilerplate of whatever was being made, if it wasn't hand-coded and it was done by AI, it was done so through a very thorough, specific, step-by-step prompt, okay? You need to use AI for typing. Do not use it to make architectural decisions you cannot reverse. You can tell the AI what architectural decision to take, but it's still gonna be up to you to finalize that decision, okay? 25% of YC Winter 25 shipped 95+% AI generated code. Then they had to hire engineers to rebuild the critical parts. AI got them to market faster, but they still had to swap it out to actually survive. Trait number 3, validation first, code second. Every single success that we saw in my current experience, plus along every other software engineer that I worked with, validation came first. Most people open up Claude Code, build something that takes them about a day, launch it right on X on Monday, spend the next 6 weeks looking for users. Now, what the actual top 3% did is they had 10 conversations with the actual buyer. They had conversations with actual buyers. They got commitment to pay. Most often than not, they got a small deposit, and then they started building. they ship to somebody who's already waiting to receive the actual product at hand. It's the same number of hours either way. The order is what changes the outcome, okay? Another thing, understand that building in public is pretty much bullshit for 95% of you. It will only work if you've already validated something. If you have not validated anything like we talked about here, do not follow this. You're simply just going to narrate the death of an app that nobody asked for. And if you want to argue with me on this, I'm going to defend my opinion in the comments. So go ahead and leave your actual thoughts on that. Understand, vibe coding is a typing assistant. It's not a strategy. The 3% understood this 12 months before everybody else. So what do you do with this information? Pick a boring market, vibe code the boilerplate, if anything, but understand vibe coding doesn't mean you just put one sentence in a prompt. You have to have stuff fully fleshed out. And then you need to validate before you build, okay? Boring vertical, painful problem, you're gonna find people willing to pay. Understand that you most of the time have to do the core yourself and you have to understand it. And you need to find somebody who's gonna say yes to it before even line 1 is written, okay? If you do all 3, you've already pulled yourself out of the 97%. Now, let's get to the vibe defensibility score, as I like to call it. Essentially, a score that you get from 0 to 100 to score before you actually ship something. There's gonna be 4 pillars composed of 25 points each, adding to a single number that tells you whether you're going to ship it or shelve the idea that you have. And it's built from a 1,000 app data set. Use it before you open Claude Code next time. The 4 pillars: ICP defensibility, trust architecture, maintainability, and distribution mode. Okay? ICP defensibility. How many clones already exist in the market? If there's already over 50 clones, okay, and some of them are free, forget about it. If there's 5 to 20 clones, look for a niche within that particular category, okay? Try to see if you can target a particular vertical. And if there's no clones or just very few, like 1 or 2, then that is a very good thing that you can get into, okay? Pillar number 2, trust architecture. What breaks if it breaks? If it handles money, social security, HIPAA compliant information, anything of that sort, you do not want to vibe code it too much, okay? If it's some type of B2B SaaS that requires basic off and manual testing, then you can sort of vibe code it, but it's still gonna be about you maintaining everything properly. If it's pretty low stakes or it's already fully tested, then you can just go ahead and vibe code it. Maintainability, could you debug it at 2 a.m.? If it's 100% AI, you've never read it, you have no tests, you obviously can't. If it's mostly AI, you can review it and you understand some of the tests, then that's much better. If the core is hand-coded, you understand the cases, you understand the edge cases, and you've tested it before, that's the best. Now, distribution, okay? What's your distribution? If you have to rely on X or Product Hunt or prayers, that is not a good sign. You have to rely on SEO, content, or cold outreach. It's a little better, more controllable, but still not the best. If you have a local network, people immediately on network you can go to, a referral engine already set up or existing clients, that is going to be the best because you can already give it to somebody who's paid you before, okay? An owned audience is worth a lot more than any feature that you will ever ship. So if you scored between a 0 and 59, forget it. Do not ship it. If you scored between a 60 to a 79, you're going to have to do a little bit more due diligence, take a look at it a second time. It might be worth it to actually go ahead and create. And if it's between 80 and 100, you're actually good to ship it and go ahead and create it, okay? So let's take a look at, for example, an email assistant for founders. There's a million of these online and literally some of them are free. Trust-wise, I mean, it can score a little high up there, but everything else, maintainability and distribution, yeah, it's not gonna be good, dead on arrival. This is what pretty much 90% of the apps in the data set look like. People take a look at this and they still decide to build it out. However, a dental clinic intake automation for 12 local offices in my city. Let me take a look at ICP, almost perfect. Trust, pretty up there. Maintainability, pretty easy since it's only for 12 that I have to really watch out for. Distribution, extremely easy for me because it's only 12 that I have to reach out to. 80 out of 100, defensible, I'm gonna go ahead and build it, okay? So score your idea first and then Claude Code second. Please do not jump the gun and instantly start vibe coding it. I know that might feel productive, but a lot of the times you are simply wasting your time. If you scored under the 60, you are most likely sitting in the 97%, okay? So we had 3 killers, 3 traits that the successful ideas had, and 1 score, right? And all of that leads you to doing 3 actions this particular week. Score your current idea, score it honestly. Anything under a 60, just literally remove it. Find 1 local business in your area, pick a boring vertical with a painful problem that you can actually walk into, and have 5 validation conversations. 5 real conversations with the buyer before you open Claude Code. And ideally, get some type of a payment before you build something out. Now, a little bonus diagnostic checklist if you want. Just ask yourself these questions. Can a stranger reach your API without authentication? Can your paywall be bypassed in DevTools? Did more than 3 people say I'd pay for this? And even better, did somebody actually give you money for it? Have you read 100% of your core logic? Could you debug this without the AI? And do you have at least 1 paying commitment before launch? Screenshot this slide if you have to. You're going to come back to it a lot more than you might think. Okay? Let's take a look at some of the founders who didn't end up in the 97%, all from Code to CEO, my startup accelerator. Don, Tamir, Chris, Paul, John, Marco, okay? All these individuals did the 3 exact traits. They followed them to the T before they built anything out. They all got validation. That's how they were able to succeed. So score your idea before you open Claude Code again. And if you want my opinion on it, you can drop your number in the comments alongside how you scored it, and I can tell you what I think of it. Now, if you want to learn how to do this properly, May 16th, I'm hosting a free live masterclass for Claude Code. More specifically, how I myself am using it inside my business to generate over 7 figures in annual recurring revenue, how you can use it as a developer to make over $50,000 a month, the highest leverage use cases for it, and secrets from my own experience building a multi-million-dollar company, as well as helping dozens of other software engineers do the same exact thing. Keep in mind, we have a cloud community ambassador inside Code to CEO, one of 60 in the entire world. So we have a lot more information than pretty much anybody else that you're going to see online. So when it comes to that, I'm going to give you the entire scoop of how we utilize AI, specifically Claude Code, to help us in not only the fulfillment, but also in running the everyday business operations. Okay? And if you want the specifics, apply to work with me at code2co.com. There's only 10 spots, application only, and it's just for software engineers. Application is going to take you no longer than 5 minutes, and if you're accepted, you'll have a one-on-one call with me. So understand, 97% aren't necessarily bad engineers. They just open Claude Code first instead of scoring. So please score the idea before you write the code. It really is that simple. Now, if you enjoyed the video, I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I shall see you in the next one.